Is it ever permissible to punch someone, even if it's in fun? What if that joke takes a terrible turn? Imagine it. You are in the gym. The room is filled with the sounds of grunts, clanking weights, and the thudding punch bags. This is the strong man's room, and respect is frequently an understatement. But suppose that unwritten code is broken, and that joke takes a turn nobody could anticipate. Today, we are examining an anecdote from the home gym that brought an entire room to stunned silence and begged the question, did that really happen? Buckle down, folks, because this is anything but an average gym story. The sunlight streamed into the upper windows of the Iron Core gym, illuminating dust motes dancing in air and highlighting perspiration beading on determined faces. It was a typical Tuesday, busy but nowhere nearly crowded. Cornered in one corner, stern-looking powerlifters grunted under massive weights. Across the way, beside the treadmills, people steadily pounded away, and in the room reserved for the fighting arts, an entirely different kind of energy hummed. Among them was David, a man in his 30s, muscular, with the swagger of the man at ease with the movements of the dojo. He trained in various fighting arts years ago, and the snug black belt, immaculately tied about the GI, spoke volumes of dedication. Flippant chatter was something that could be guaranteed with David, and he enjoyed ribbing the new ones and the friends with it, always with the smile and the eyebrow wiggle. He did that with the best of intentions. Most of the time, across the mat, was Sarah. Sarah was new to Iron Core, but hard work was nothing new to her. She moved with quiet intensity, her eyes hard and focused. She kept to herself the most, intensely running drills and forms. Few knew much about Sarah's past, as she didn't often talk about it, but she was neither flashy, didn't vaunt, and didn't quite wear the black belt with the swagger that David did. She just trained. The atmosphere in the boxing room was jovial in general. People sparred, practiced techniques, and offered each other tips. David, the consummate socialite, often moved between groups, trading jokes and shows. He loved showing speed and precision, always careful of being too pretentious, but surely relishing the compliments that often their direction. One day, David was practicing hard kicks, his movements graceful and powerful. He caught the eye of several strangers, including Sarah, stretching along the way. David finished off the pattern with flair, spun and smiled. "Anyone else think they need the chiropractor after that?" he joked, winking and mopping the perspiration from his forehead. Some laughter perturbed the small group. David's eyes roamed, settling on Sarah. He was aware that she attended regularly, but he hadn't become acquainted with her much at all. He observed her quiet intensity and, with perhaps ill-advised swagger, concluded that he'd loosen her up somehow. "Sarah!" he bellowed, his voice carrying across the mat. Sarah looked up, smiling faintly, politely. "You look awfully serious over there yourself. Ever thought about getting some real action?" he continued, waving loosely in the direction of the sparring area. Sarah's smile remained fixed, yet her eyes conveyed an undertone of something uninterpretable. "I'm sticking with what I know," she said with an air of calm, her tone gentle yet distinct. David, still riding high on his own performance, decided to push it a little. He strode casually towards her, his black belt swishing gently. "Come on," he said, a playful challenge in his tone. "Just a quick spar. Nothing serious. I could teach you a thing or two about real technique." He winked, clearly expecting her to laugh it off or politely decline. He thought he was being charming, maybe even a little encouraging. He probably imagined her saying, "Oh no, I couldn't possibly," and him responding with some light-hearted reassurance. But Sarah did not laugh. She did not deny. She simply stood up, slowly, intentionally, and stared at David directly in the eyes. Gone was the friendly smile, and in its stead, an expression that remained calm, but now completely focused, took its place. "You're serious?" she asked, still quieter than before. David, taken briefly aback by the unanticipated reaction, laughed. "Of course. Just for fun. A little friendly match. Don't fret. I'll take it easy on you." He stuck out his chest slightly, an assured smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. He was a black belt, after all. He most likely pictured it as being an almost instant, casual exchange, in which he'd readily avoid her moves and perhaps provide some guidance. It'd be an innocuous displaying of proficiency, entertainment for the gym, and an occasion to jokingly engage with an unfamiliar face. The other gym members in the martial arts section had been half listening, but now started paying more attention. They felt a change in the atmosphere. The casual talk had taken a different tone. Low whispers rolled through the little band across. Is he really asking her to fight? Shouldn't he be a black belt? She's so calm. Sarah gave a deep breath, her voice barely a whisper. All right, if you insist. David's smirk grew broader as he readjusted his GI. He was probably looking forward to a very short and very simple sparring session. He got into a basic stance, hands up, prepared to block or parry if needed. Let's say he felt very gracious, giving her the courtesy of an easy win. Whenever you're ready, came the patronizing amusement in his voice. Everything changed then. The gym went literally empty when Sarah moved. David was barely halfway through his sentence when suddenly Sarah exploded forward. It was certainly not some blundering, wild human behavior-filled initiation. She attacked her victim in a moment so shocking and unexpected it would never be forgotten. It was by no means a flamboyant kick or dramatic punch. It was something so much more understated and so much more dangerous. Sarah had approached with such lightning speed that the whole episode could hardly be a reaction for David. Having been trained in the black belt way, he had come to expect to anticipate moves in order to react to them, but her initial action caught him completely off guard. It was not a forceful attack. She had executed a flawless technique. In less than a blink of an eye, Sarah had grasped the entire procedure. It was no blow into the face or anything of the sort. Rather, it was a lightning-fast strike to his wrist, which she immediately twisted as she stepped in behind him. In that single lightning-fast moment, the officious Mr. David went from confident and smiling 1 second to imbalanced, his arm bent painfully behind him, and Sarah tightening against his back and controlling every movement he would try to make. An enormous collective gasp erupted among the crowd. The weights stopped clattering. The punches ceased hitting the bags in time with the rhythms of the songs. The sounds of the music, upon which the kung fu group had danced and trained, seemed to wane as well. Every set of eyes in the martial arts section and dozens from the other parts of the gym were glued to David and Sarah. David stood there, scarcely able to believe. He tried to resist and pull his arm free, but Sarah's hold was mighty. Her body was acting as a fixed point, and he could not budge. His black belt training, his years of credibility, all seemed to melt away in the face of her out-of-this-world seas. He hadn't even raised his guard, caught. Absolutely and beyond. Sarah didn't say a word. She offered no smug remarks. Instead, she held him to show her total dominance, sans aggression, but with firm and raw dominance. It wasn't attacking. It was showcasing very well-honed skill. The kind of skill requiring years, maybe even decades, of absolute devotion. The kind of skill forged in extremely demanding, concentrated settings. The silence in the gym was indeed deafening. It was not just an absence of any kind of noise. It was the kind of oppressive silence filled with shock, disbelief, and utter amazement. David, who moments before was the confident black belt, now all but flattened, that flush of surprise washed away. The charming smirk was gone, replaced by a wide-eyed expression of utter shock. He no longer looked like a fighter. He looked like a child caught late in a game of red light, green light. Sarah held him for a few seconds longer so that everyone could really feel the impact of the moment. Then, very elegantly and in a controlled motion, she released his arm, stepped back, and bowed ever so slightly. It was a gesture of respect that martial artists usually make, but at that instant, it felt deeply meaningful. It wasn't a bow of apology or bribe. It was a bow of acknowledgement. David rose slowly, rubbing his wrist. He didn't look angry. He looked humbled. He looked like one who has just witnessed a miracle or very swift and effective instruction. He gloomy-eyed Sarah again, then the bewildered faces around him. His mouth opened, closed. No words came out. Calm and collected, Sarah just turned her back on him and walked to her mat. as though nothing had happened. She grabbed a water bottle, took a sip, and continued with her stretch exercises, as if she had just done a basic drill and not completely broken a black belt's ego in front of the whole gym. In much the same way, the silence was prolonged for much longer. The murmur began to rise. Someone whispered, "What was that? Was it really that fast?" Another whispered, awe-stricken, "He didn't even see it coming." David stood in the center of the mats, caught in a spell of thought. Sarah, meanwhile, went on to stretch quietly, her movements fluid and controlled. He saw there, that was the quiet strength he had taken for shyness. That was the magic beneath an intenseness he had put down. In that fleeting second, he realized what a huge error he had made. Timidly, he walked towards Sarah. The gym went into a hush. What would he say? Would he curse her? Would he feel embarrassed? Stopping just a few feet in front of her, David, in a faint whisper, and one filled with respect far beyond what he'd shown moments before, said, "Sarah, what was that?" Sarah looked up, expression unchanged by anything that had recently transpired. "Just what I know," she said again, but now with some heavy meaning behind those words. David nodded slowly, realization flashing across his face. He whispered, barely audible, "I've never seen anything like it. What style was that?" Sarah paused, then answered, "It's a combination. Years of practice. I practiced it in a small dojo, back home." She did not qualify, did not boast, did not seek praise. David extended his hand, not to fight, but to shake. His previous cockiness was nowhere to be found, replaced by actual respect. "My name is David," he said, as if he were greeting her for the first time. "I apologize. I was out of line." That was incredible. Sarah took his hand, her grip firm and brief. "Sarah," she confirmed. After that, the atmosphere in Iron Core Gym shifted. David, the confident black belt, remained friendly, still made jokes, but now he had a new humility about him. He accorded every new person respect, and he would often visit Sarah, not to challenge her, but for advice. He would sit and watch her train, sometimes asking gentle questions, eager to learn. And Sarah? She remained the quiet, focused presence that she had always been. But now, when she walked into the gym, there was a certain aura that hung with her. Everyone knew. Everyone remembered. The joke that had gone so terribly wrong had revealed something truly special. It was a good reminder that true strength is not always boisterous or flashy. Sometimes it is quiet and understated and bides its time until the right moment to emerge. What do you suppose David was thinking about afterwards? And Sarah? What kind of discipline do you suppose it takes in order to have that amount of control and finesse and still be so humble? Let me know your thoughts below. This is a perfect example of how you never, ever judge a book by its cover. The individual you think is simply looking out for themselves could very well be the strongest person in the room. And that, my friends, is something to remember in and out of the gym.